Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we're talking about a bunch of games that just won't leave me alone. Every time I rotate these media towers around the office here, I am reminded of games that have haunted me for so long. Games I had an opportunity to play, but passed up at the right time. And now every time I see them on my shelf, I go, man, I want to play you so bad, but I don't know when the right time will be. So today, I'm self-owning, and I know I'm not going to be the only one doing it. I want y'all to step out into the comments down below. Let me know games that have haunted you in your backlogs. Games you know you should have played. Games that really harm your gamer cred because you haven't played yet. Or games that you've been staring down for a while, but you haven't been proactive on playing. I feel like I've done a decent job with my backlog this year, especially as someone who reviews a lot of games. I'm pretty happy with myself. I've been knocking a lot of them down. Things like Mega Man Legends, other games like Dino Crisis, just really indulging in a little bit of the modern gaming and a little bit of the retro gaming. I feel a good balance, but there's still so much work to be done. So today, beside me, I have a huge stack of games that definitely haunt my backlog, and I want to hear yours down below. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic or retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Let's start off with a banger. Yeah. Well, I only played Ocarina of Time for the first time in 2023, and that was before the new Zelda game was dropping, and that was awesome. I felt very foolish for waiting so long because it was amazing. So I feel like that's just a fun retrospective waiting to happen there in Majora's Mask. But yeah, it's hilarious because I enjoy games like Lightning Returns from the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. I've ended up loving games like Dead Rising, games that put you on the clock. There was a time where I was a teenager and I remember playing Dead Rising and not liking it because I was on the clock, but now I appreciate those types of games, and Majora's Mask is like the origin of being on the clock. And I think the amazing part about this game is despite how popular it is, how famous it is, how well known it is, I know so little about it. Story, outside of the gameplay elements, just very, very little. So it's one of those true treasures in my backlog that I can just go into, and despite the history, despite all the coverage it got, all the love it has, I can actually go into that and be tremendously surprised. So I understand how lucky I am to have that waiting there for me, but I thought I'd open with a real cell phone. So now, come on, don't leave me hanging here, all right? I need you all out in the comment section owning yourselves with me. Let's stay a little bit with Nintendo here. Another big series, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. One of my favorites. I played a decent amount of Mystery Dungeon, but one that I skipped out on was Explorers of Sky. Of course, I skipped out on the one that's considered the best. I've heard this game gets super emotional, incredible writing, and I am just here for that because Super Mystery Dungeon, I always say, had an amazing plot twist, in my opinion. I also just think some of the writing and the charm and the nostalgia of this series is so strong, and especially when it's in that pixel art style. I do enjoy the remake that they did for the first Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but without that art style, it loses a lot. So to know that we have one of the best written Pokemon games here at the same time as channeling that style, really exciting. So this is one I always look at and go, man, like this has to happen soon. This is high priority for me. So keep an eye out for a little Mystery Dungeon here. This one is also a big part of my heart, Mega Man. All right, so you know how much I love the Battle Network series. Play through all those games, and the spiritual sequel is sitting right here in Star Force. It's like a more serious sci-fi approach to the Mega Man Battle Network series, and I played about 8 hours of Leo and really liked it, but you know, the Trails series kind of swept me up, and I ended up playing that instead because I'm obsessed with Trails. But this is a great game for Battle Network fans with a ton of quality life enhancements. The soundtrack is wonderful. The battle system is very familiar to those who have played Battle Network, but again, just putting the camera behind the character makes you feel a lot closer to the action. So I've played a little bit of it, but I've never finished it, and I want to finish it because there's 2 other games in the series that are waiting for me here. But Mega Man, as I'll talk about a little bit later, I feel Capcom's cooking. So that's why I'm a little lax on Mega Man right now, because they like those Mega Man collections. As someone who loves God of War clones, and by that I mean like old school God of War clone, like Kratos yelling, screaming, tearing people in half, he's always angry, that style God of War clone, I love those, like the Darksider series, guilty pleasure of mine. But I haven't played one of the most popular God of War clones. Yeah, Dantes Inferno is one I always look at and go, man, I don't even have a good excuse. Like, I bet this game isn't any longer than 12 hours, and I could bang this out in a weekend. Maybe I'll do that. But also, this is one of my favorite developers when I was in high school, Visceral Games. Like, they made Dead Space. and they made Dantes Inferno. Like, this is wrong, right? That's what I love about this video is I'm like, there's so many things that are wrong about what's in my backlog. Like, I feel I should have been all over this given my taste in both developers and types of games. But you know, when you're growing up and you didn't have like a lot of money to go and spend on all these new games, you had to pick and choose. It wasn't until late in high school, I always talk about my GameStop hack where I was buying used games, playing them in a week, and then returning them, that I was able to really cycle through a lot of games I had missed, but Dantes Inferno had still continued to elude me. Another developer also eluded me a lot in my childhood, outside of my beloved DK64, and that was Rare. Rare is well known for a ton of popular 3D platformers, both crude and cute. And I haven't played either, so yeah, I know this is nuts and bolts, which a lot of people don't like this one, but it's the only physical copy of Banjo I have to flash on the camera here. So pretend this is like Banjo 1 or 2E or whatever. Maybe nuts and bolts isn't that bad. I hear some people go like, you know what? I think you might like it, Maddie. Who knows? But I haven't played any Banjo at all. And I love me some 3D platformers, especially the classic one. You know how hard I go for like Blink's the Time Sweeper. You know how hard I go for Sly Cooper. If you're a great 3D platformer, Maddie's got your back. But Conquer is all me, man. Like, I love me some crude humor, some ridiculousness, some late 90s, early 2000s humor. And this game is apparently chock full of it. Again, I feel like I'm just missing out on a major piece of gaming history because I feel games like this don't get made much nowadays. And given the kind of wide spectrum that Rare was covering here between the M-rated Conquer and the E for Everyone Banjo-Kazooie, kind of incredible. And that's just like a big gap in my gaming experience that I want to fill in so badly. And I don't even think I can make a great excuse because I loved Rare Replay. I just got distracted with other games on Rare Replay that surprised me. That's where I discovered Jet Force Gemini, which I just showed in a recent haul video from a retro shop. I picked up Complete in Box. That's also where I found how much I love Battletoads. So I pretty much ended up being redirected away from a lot of the traditional Rare classics. But yeah, there's just still so many I have to experience. Cameo is another one. Like, just a lot of Rare games during their golden era. It's just completely undiscovered territory for me, so I want to really dive into that. Now, going back to Pokemon once more, let's look at the GameCube. Very few in my backlog for the GameCube that I haven't played. Very proud of that. But also, you know that like when it comes to some of the first-party Nintendo stuff, does that even count? Like, oh, Mario Sunshine. Do I care? Have you seen the games I love? Not really. But in all seriousness, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, I don't know how I haven't done this one. You know, I have it in my collection. I spent the big bucks on it. And this is the type of Pokemon that I like when it's, you know, full budget, we'll say, right? I talked a bit about Mystery Dungeon earlier, the kind of cutesy art style, but one of my favorite Pokemon games, if not my favorite Pokemon game ever, is the first Stadium game. The animations in that game and the audio, like the voiceover from the announcer, still, in my opinion, and I said this before everyone started hating on Pokemon on YouTube, but those animations and audio still put, I think, modern Pokemon to shame, and have for a long while, by the way. Go look up a montage of attacks from Pokemon Stadium 1. It's absolutely unbelievable. But really, the continuation of that was with Pokemon Coliseum, which was basically next-gen Pokemon Stadium, and I thought that was great. And then you follow all of that up with XD Gale of Darkness. And a lot of people say this is the bee's knees. I remember some people also saying something about like Gen 3 being involved, which I mean, that's like my favorite generation right next to the OG. So yeah, like it just perfect match for Maddie, but no playtime. How about that? We did see Gale of Darkness on the Switch Online service. At least it's planned to arrive as a GameCube classic. We don't know when, but that'll be exciting because the game is super expensive. So I know there's a ton of people who are waiting that out, and understandably so. Even if I'm not like a huge fan of how Nintendo doesn't have the virtual shop with all these games that you can buy and own and just keep downloaded on your system a la carte, I do like that they are helping whittle away on the retro market, which is tremendously overpriced. All right, hanging with Nintendo, kind of, at least the system I own this game for, Disco Elysium. This, oh my, I know, man. As someone who champions good writing in this industry, I do my part, I'd like to say, but for me to have this oversight, it's such a funny story. Because when it first came out and it was such a text-heavy game, I said, I'm not playing this on my PC. By the way, this was before Steam Deck and everything, so I just had this idea of like playing a Danganronpa style game hunched over my computer, and with my Danganronpa coded brain, I went, no, if I'm reading a lot of text, I want it on my Switch. I want my feet kicked up. Well, did that part. Final Cut comes out. Oh, here's all the content. Go ahead, give it a shot. And what does your boy do? Buys it, and it just never gets around to playing it. I remember, again, I think it came back down the trails like, oh, you could start like Cold Steel 2, which is hilarious in hindsight with how I feel about Cold Steel 2, or you can play Disco Elysium. And I was like, oh, I'll just continue my Trails journey. I don't get to do this often. So it's not like I have full regret, but you'll see every step of the way, like me just plowing through the Trail series knocked a lot of games off my backlog even further back. But Disco Elysium, like the skill checks, the choice and consequence, the multiple endings, the writing quality, the humor, it's such like absolutely out of everything here, given what many of you know me for and the games I play and the games I cover, this is probably the most Maddie game out of this entire stack, and this probably disturbs me the greatest. So it's also a high priority one. Now, this one actually is a Nintendo series, and it's one that is still sealed. Xenolade Chronicles. I gotta say, I'm happy with the way I approached this series, though, because I played a little bit of 2. And if you love 2, by the way, I'm not taking it away from you, because I want to give it a second chance. But 2's voice cast and writing and characters, I was just like, I despise this. Like, and this was like peak anime Maddie. But then I saw Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and that just looked more grounded and serious, and I played that for like 90 to 100 hours and absolutely loved it. And so that made me understand Xenoblade. I went, okay, I definitely want to play 1. I want to play 2. 2's DLC. I think 3 has DLC. Want to try that. But I want to go back to the beginning. So many people say that Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is an incredible JRPG, and I need that in my system like 24/7. After Last Defense Academy, just taking a little bit of a break on games that are going to take me 90 to 100 hours, but this is near the top of the list when I start to get ready for that kind of experience again. Heading over to the PS1, there is one game that I always look at and go, this is just my style, my aesthetic. I always say I'm an RPG fan first and foremost, but if there is a genre that I like second to that, it is survival horror. And Parasite Eve is kind of a mixture of the two. It's a turn-based RPG in a lot of ways, but it's also a survival horror game. I mean, you're probably stretching the definition of survival horror here because it does give you a lot of resources, but I watched a friend play a few hours of this, and the music, the atmosphere, the snow, it was just, there's such a mood to this game. And there's a sequel, and then there's like the 3rd birthday. There's so much Parasite Eve for me to go out there and experience. So it's another I did discover very late, and it's one that I'm glad I discovered it when I did, because I think if I tried it when I was younger, I just wouldn't have appreciated it as much. Like, all of my tastes had to develop into what they are. Like, I had to know I love role-playing experiences. I had to know I love old Squaresoft games. I had to know I love survival horror, and this just kind of puts them all together in this really interesting way. This is one I've talked a lot about. Mega Man X Command Mission. Yeah, this is like the best game I never beat. It's definitely a little bit of stretching the backlog, so to say, because I have played it, and I could tell you a lot about this game, but I've never seen it all the way through, because when I was a kid, I just kept getting stomped out by boss fights, and now my strong belief is like, look how many collections Capcom's done, and I'm waiting out for their next Mega Man collection. Like, is it going to be the Legends collection? Is it going to be a Star Force collection? You know, they already did like an X collection, an X1 and 2 collection, right? So I feel like that was the time to bring this game back, but can this be its own standalone? Like, where does that slot in? I'm just observing Capcom, because whatever their next collection is will determine if I dive into stuff or not. The last thing I want to do is finally start playing an X Command Mission, or finally start going into Star Force all the way, and then Capcom announces, so Star Force collection's here. It feels like, oh man, I want to be playing that at launch with like everyone else and discussing these types of games with everyone else at that time. So it's me getting caught up a bit with the zeitgeist, but it's so much fun. Like, especially when these are games from your childhood or connected to your childhood, like just experiencing them with other people is really cool. It's the main reason I started doing this, because like I had no friends growing up that played games like I did. So when I went to YouTube and I got to talk to people about things that I thought no one could relate to, and then there were thousands of you who did, that was cool. So that's why I'm waiting on Mega Man a bit. Low priority in the terms of the backlog, but definitely one I look at and say, man, just, it's Final Fantasy X, but Mega Man. It's unbelievable that we haven't gotten anything like this again. This voice cast is like my Mega Man voice cast. It is perfect. Every character, perfect. And I think the story so far, really good. So yeah, man, I really want them to re-release this one. If whatever collection they announce next isn't this, I'm just going to go for it, and I'll play it again whenever it comes around. This next one goes a bit into the immersive sim catalog. Now, before you freak out, I'm not talking about this version of the game, but I did buy it so I could do a complete box experience whenever I do a retrospective on it. But that game, ladies and gentlemen, is Deus Ex, but not the Conspiracy. I know this is the PS2 version. This is the, no, don't touch, bad, Maddie, bad. I'm not touching, okay? We're going to do it on PC whenever I play this one. But as someone who's like a big sci-fi fan and loves, again, incredible writing, this is one that, again, I'm glad I'm getting to it when I am, because what happened is a lot of modern gaming stepped away from things I learned I really value. Interactive worlds, sometimes sacrificing like fidelity for that ability to touch things in the world, to step up to a monitor and read an email, and it's all just there and it's immersive, to upgrade your skills and be able to lift heavy objects and find secret pathways, just player expression, player creativity. And this seems like one of those ultimate experiences from like the late 90s, and I just never got to it. I never got to other games in this kind of ilk like Thief. But as someone who just loves sci-fi, yeah, like Deus Ex, very much near the top of the list. I have one other JRPG series that I've really slacked on. The only one I've played is the recent HD remake. You probably know what I'm talking about. Dragon Quest. So I played the demo for Dragon Quest VIII, and I liked it because I love Akira Toriyama's art style. So for me as a kid, I went, it looks like Dragon Ball. And honestly, as an adult, I'd say the same thing. It looks like Dragon Ball. I'm sold. I have yet to fully buy into me possibly loving Dragon Quest. I've accepted as a JRPG fan and as a turn-based fan, like I like classic to an extent. So Octopath Traveler to me is a classic JRPG in every sense, but it has a lot of quality of life enhancements that make it more tolerable. Now, something like Dragon Quest is very much uncompromising in its classic roots, everything down to how random encounters work, how enemies are balanced, how damage numbers function, camera angles. Like, it feels like an old series any way I play it. To be fair, you could throw Dragon Quest XI in there as well. I played a little bit of the demo, but it's been so long, I can't even tell you a thing about it. My most experience with the Dragon Quest franchise is Builders 2, which I love. But Dragon Quest VIII is one of those games that I know is a timeless JRPG. It's a classic. But would I really like it with the taste I know I have? That's something I'll be curious to find out. Or will it be one of those Final Fantasy X moments for me where I go to you guys and say, hey, this was awesome, and I can totally see why for its time, if you got to experience it then, this was incredible. But as someone who's experiencing it in this case, 2025, I've seen all of this before, so the impact has been lessened a little bit, which I know a lot of you don't like. But yeah, Dragon Quest is one that is like lower priority in the JRPG category for me. Xenoblade definitely coming first because I'm more convinced I would like that. Some PlayStation 4 and 5 games to round us out here. First up, visual novel series that I know I love the first entry of, The Somnium Files, and I never played its sequel, Nirvana Initiative, and now we just got a third entry in the series, No Sleep for Konami Dante, which I just haven't even looked at all because, like, frankly, I still got to get to the second one. As you can see, still sealed. Ooh, that's disgusting. I hate me for that. I really do. But The Somnium Files is a mixture of the things that you know and love from, say, like Zero Escape, where it's just very mind-bendy, very crazy, very sci-fi, but at the same time, the writing goes all places. It's sometimes incredibly goofy, incredibly fourth wall breaking, just pure ridiculousness. Other times, incredibly thought-provoking. And so I've never played this sequel, but I remember playing the first one when I had COVID and I was just laid up in bed, and those 35 hours breezed by. So I'd love to play me some The Somnium Files, Nirvana Initiative. It's definitely on the backlog for sure, but it's one that anytime I see it on my shelf, I go, oh, how did you buy this one and keep it sealed, Maddie? Come on. I've brought this one up before. If you watch regularly here on the channel, you won't be too surprised, but Castlevania. My only experience is Lords of Shadow, which is a sick game, as I said. Love me some God of War clones, but how is that my only Castlevania experience? I will say in my defense, I remember seeing, I want to say, because this is the Requiem collection, I want to say it was Symphony in the Night. Whatever the PSP Castlevania game was, Rondo of Blood, I can't say for sure. It's been so long. I remember checking that out at GameStop. It was like $17.99. Why I remember that price tag, I don't know, but it was just in that right area where I bought it to try because it was cheap enough and I was using my trade credit. And when I played it, I just fell off it. I know I bought a true traditional Castlevania game. I know that was something I did buy at one point. It's funny because as a kid growing up watching the Angry Video Game Nerd, there were so many series that he put me off of, as I've documented here on this channel. But one that he definitely always just stood up and cheered for was Castlevania. And it's funny because you'd think I would just jump right into that, but I don't know, man. Just such a shame. But that's one that maybe we can make right this October. I think it'd be a great Halloween game. So you let me know which Castlevania I should play down below. But this last one is actually a modern game. It's funny. You'll see it's the launch edition. I bought it day one, but I'll explain. God of War Ragnarok. And you could even throw Horizon Forbidden West in this pile as well. I don't want to sound bitter because I know these games based on the reviews and what people say. Oh, they're great games. You'll love them. But it's something I got to get over within myself, which is that I'm really struggling to be interested in those types of games lately. Just the third person over the shoulder, semi-open or fully open world games that so many other games then spiderweb off of. And I feel like I've seen it so many times that even going to the origin of it, even if I know it's really good, even if I know it's top tier PlayStation quality stuff, it just seems so unappealing because it's not new to me. And I just need to get over it, especially at least with Ragnarok. With Horizon, I know I liked the world and I know I liked the combat, but I didn't like the story all that much. You know, it was good enough for its time, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. God of War 2018 is one of the best games ever for a lot of people, and I really enjoyed my time with it. I platinumed it. So I know I need to play Ragnarok, and that'd be another great retrospective to do here, no doubt. But it's just something I need to get over within myself. Like, just, you know, I've seen the clips of like being handheld by, you know, Atreus and him calling out all the puzzle solutions and just sitting there going, oh man, like this is an experience I've been really running from. I'm not even like Mr. I'm a gamer, I know everything, I need no tutorials. I'm not like that, but it's just a style of game, a type of design, really, not even a style game, it's a type of design that I've really sprinted away from. So yeah, those are my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. These are all these games that just haunt me in my backlog. I look at it and I say, I know I love you, I gotta play you though. So what are yours, ladies and gentlemen? Fire away down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace